the postural problems and related diseases connected to the back. As you all know by this time, yogic exercises are mostly directed toward the vertebral column. You can look at the skeleton. You can see the basic structure of a human being. Since man started walking on his two legs, he has to face problems created by the force of gravity. You can look at the camera tripod. It is able to balance against the gravity because the weight has been divided equally on 3 points. Here, might stand is only one leg, is also able to stand against the gravity. But again, that base for this might stand is wide enough to balance the thrust of the might and its stand. Even another example, here the base is strong and wide and heavy enough, even the might is bent away from the center of gravity, till it is safe. But suppose if the head is heavier than the base, it will go off balance. You understand the simple law. So as soon as I'm holding this mic and pulling the base with my hand, but the base has been pulled down by what? What's the energy which pulls the base? The gravity, because there it is heavier, and as long as I use my muscle to counteract the force of gravity, I can keep it. As soon as I leave my hand, the gravity takes the rest of the work. So, against the gravity, everything. I put this against the gravity, but beyond certain level, I will not be able to control the gravity from the other way around. As long as the thing is right, balances. In our life also, the same process takes place. Since we start standing erect and walking on 2 feet, that particular balance, what we call standing, is a juggler's art, literally. Just look. Please bring that skeleton close. To keep these various small pieces of bones and keep it as one, like this, one stick. It's like an axe. Sometimes you see in circus by jugglers, they put on their mouth a stick, over there put 10-15 cups, over there some bottle, and over that something else, and they will be back. I'm not a good balancer, maybe that's part. The same trick is been applied here. Do you understand how difficult it is, this job of standing erect? All the bolts are now put together in the center here. There's a place, just like the base of this. There's the base. From that, another bone has been connected to the top. From that, another screw to the hip bone. And from there, 5 lumbar vertebra, one over another. Then the 12 vertebra of the thoracic region. And then 7 vertebra of the cervical region. And over that, a skull. This skeleton now, you can put in a basket. If you remove all these wires, which is keeping, not only the wires, it also have a tripod. If I take the tripod, what will happen to these wires and these bones? They all will crumble down. So to keep your body in this position every day against the gravity is one of the most difficult jobs in your life. And 70 million Americans are suffering with the problem related to this back because of improper posture, improper balancing, and trying to keep himself against the gravity day and night. Even when you are sitting down, still you have put lots of energy and different muscles to keep you falling from the sitting position. As you can see, when you fall asleep, you fall down even by sitting, is it not? Some people don't. They do sleep. So the purpose of this talk, I think we'll take it. 2-3 lessons, generally we finish in one lesson, we'll go and elaborate because we're also taking this for future and teacher training course will be available. And I brought all the materials of my next book here. It's all connected for next encyclopedia. We took more than 1,000 pictures using that same mechanism and evaluated and different posture faults we found out. We will discuss. So it may take 2 or 3 days. Today I just start with the introduction about the back, where I can more light salt is also available. So the back, especially standing straight against the gravity. This skeleton is standing against the gravity because of its balance on tripod. And how can you do that? You got any tripod balance? And you, when you stand erect, in first time an infant gets up from the horizontal position to vertical position. Why? Why the infant? And not bone. Muscles. The muscles to keep you straight. Those muscles are not strong enough, also not properly controlled by the brain, central nervous system. wired, computerized. As I move my body in any direction, my body automatically corrected to the position I want. Then a computer has been programmed. A child is still learning to program, like a newborn computer. Program is not. So as he gets up first time, the muscles are not getting proper signal. So that's what a juggler is doing. My body is programming, my brain is programming to follow, to get the same process also taking place there, exactly. To keep that stick on the tip against the gravity, my brain is sending various messages to my, I don't have time to think, but it automatically sent various impulses. So, in the introductory talk of this topic, we will analyze those structure which is we call backbone, literally the backbone, and how the backbone and of course other various structure, body structure kept together. So when we come up to keeping this structure in this one condition, we will be learning first of all what makes these joints and how the joints are connected. First thing, here this joint is connected, these two joints, these two pieces of bone is connected with what? Pardon? Here, in this, there is no ligament here, you don't see it. What do you see? Wire, that's right. So, something is to connect the two joints, and here whoever did this, they use the wire. But in your joint, what thing it connects? Ligaments. Ligaments like this act to connect. Simple procedure. We don't have to study too much the detail about ligaments. We'll just talk basic aspect of ligament. So, ligament connects these two joints. Secondly, if these two joints are connected, bones will comment, bones will rub against each other. It is just like rubbing of a two piece of stone. Even the harder stone, when you start rubbing, it will wear and tear. That means by end of your 100 years of lifespan, if each bone has to touch each other, that will wear down and maybe quite small. So, to keep this joint from rubbing each other, you got something else. What is that?
Cartilage.
Cartilages or cushions. Various types of cushions are put between the joint. Here you cannot see any cartilage, but you can see the space left between the two. Can put together. So that space where this arrow of is the place where the cartilage, the space you can see empty space in the cartilage separates both the joints. Now next thing is these bones not only should be connected and there's cartilage to not rub, but it also must stand against the gravity. That's the most tricky part. And what is the thing which keeps that? So certain muscles are constantly engaged in keeping these two bones away from falling to the side or ground. So that is the function of the muscles. Or if I want to bend my legs, so what is doing? Again the muscles is contracting, and so I am able to flex the knee joint. And then when I want to stand erect, muscles are extended. But whether you are standing or flexing or bending, you call it, or running, walking, is the motion of the muscles to keep the body from falling. So, just like the example, what I am trying to do, my brain will send messages, impulses to various ways, so my muscles are moving to keep this balance. The same procedure. So, walking or running or jumping or standing, the central nervous system is constantly sending messages every moment to react to the situation so that we can stand against the gravity. See, you understand how much your nervous system is being trained to do that? Just like the high tension wire, people what do you call the circus walkers? Tightrope walkers, that's right. And to walk through the tightrope, you get up and naturally you fall. What keeps you from falling was their central nervous system trained to find so the balance. It is completed, there's not time much to think. You have to learn and go on, make the central nervous system take and react. So mostly reflexes are brought into action, 100% reflexes, all that action. So also you are doing the same job, you may not even know. Since the very first time got up and tried to stand up, and mama watching carefully, my baby, up. And the baby sending new messages to the brain how to control those muscles. So programming. And this program went on until he became an Olympic champion. And run and jump. This is all the gymnastics they perform, all the circus performance they do. Not only balancing, acting, moving, walking, running, jumping. All this is nothing but just control of the muscles. So three things there. To keep this structure in one state, that is to keep against the gravity, first we need what? Joints made up of ligaments. Bones are attached with ligaments which ties like this. Second, we need cartilage so that it will wear. Third, we need muscles to keep it. Cartilage only ligaments and cartilages can only give the binding nature, but it cannot keep it against the gravity. So that muscles come. And so the same procedure also takes place in your vertebral column. Whatever I said just now here, the same procedure also here. But here, the pieces are only two. One from long and another from here, two is connected. And the third is connected here. But here the connections are little by little. There are 5, first of all, there's a coccyx region which, according to our theory, it may be true, may not be true. We lost the tail in the long process of evolution, and you can see the tail portion. And to understand also, this will help a great. Look at this stand is connected to the tailbone. You see, when you are sitting, which portion of your tailbone is taking the pressure? Just that same area, you see. So a straight sitting position is very good for your posture. Because if you are going forward or backward, you are against the gravity. The muscles are working very hard, which you'll be hearing soon. So this coccyx bone is now one piece, but from that you come to the first lumbar vertebra, this lumbar curvature. And there are 5 lumbar vertebrae there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 5 lumbar vertebrae, just like these 2 joints, are also connected with by ligaments, and there are also cartilages to separate them. And those cartilages here called, what do you call it? These cartilages here, discs, or the cushions, like donut, like shape cushions are there, so that the vertebra won't rub each other. So 5 lumbar vertebra, then over that place 12 thoracic vertebra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These 12 thoracic vertebra also connected the same way like the lumbar or any other joint with a disc in between. But we don't get much problem on the thoracic area because the ribs, you can see, are connected to the thoracic vertebra. And very little motion in your daily life because of the connection of the rib cage. You can see under the 5th vertebra, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the 6th vertebra, there is a rib which is incomplete. You call this is floating rib. And above that is another one more vertebra, the 7th one also is incomplete, which is also Pala, eyes wide open. Not listening sufficient. I told clearly. Okay. So that, now look at the floating rib first. See, 6th and the 7th is not attached to the stern, that is the breastbone. Or you call it rib steak. Rib steak, You never ate rib steaks? Eh? They got a rib steak bone. No? Eh? Spare ribs. Yeah, spare ribs. Well, this is a spare rib actually. So after the 12 vertebra, the 2 floating ribs are there. And then rest of the vertebra is connected as to the backbone. That is why there is not much motion or not much what? Not much what? There's not much motion, so there's not much problem. You don't get much problem in the thoracic region of the vertebral column. So because of this connection, there's no motion, so it is fine. You don't get much unless you get an accident or something, car accident. There is no such problem you get involved with this vertebra 12. There is also
you can see the cartilages connected. Come up, any hurry here? Okay, who else? Who can do the asana properly? Somebody who can come to asana, just come up here, please. Okay, Jyoti, come here. Now just see, we ask her to do one exercise. See any motion on the thoracic region. Come face them forward. Now, do the triangle position, separate your arms, separate your legs. Okay, go to the triangle position. Go down. Now, it appears to be is bending, is it not? But there is no motion or bending here. Where the bending takes place? Hip as well as on the. Now the same thing, you go forward, stand up. We'll go down. Though there is slight, but the motion is, you can see mostly the problem in the lumbar and the end cervical region. So that is first thing. Okay, you can go. We'll call you back if necessary. So the first thing you must understand, when you come to the backbone, the problem is mostly related to first on the lumbar, or skipping that. After 12 thoracic vertebra, then how many vertebra there on the up? 7 cervical vertebra. Come on, turn this way a little bit. Look at face. Here's the problem, next problem. Send a chiropractor. Okay. So the 7 vertebra after this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and that end of the last vertebra is connected to the skull. So you can turn that way, turn this way, and little bit up, little bit down, and all your motions taking place. So there is problem also you can get in lumbar and cervical region also. So most of the problem then you find is on the lumbar region or on the cervical region. So also exercises mostly affect these two regions, all the yoga exercises. Jyoti, do shoulder stand, please. I'm sorry. Again, you have to come. Shoulder stand. Just see the motion. See the cervical region and the lumbar region. Now bend your legs over, both the legs, plow position. Bending is cervical region and the lumbar. Now bend your knees. The bending is both cervical, lumbar and the knee joint. Now up, over to bridge position. Now again the motion is cervical region, forward bending, flexing. Cervical region, lumbar region is an extension. And knee, of course. So here, again, very little action on the thoracic region, but still all the actions come only on lumbar and cervical. So you understand how your basic backbones are kept together by ligaments, and these ligaments start. Put that chart, please. Yes, here it is. You can see the white. Look at that white chart. The white portion from here lumbar is connected. Of course, part of this left side has been removed. The cartilage. Bring it up closer. Will you please put this away? Okay, put this away. Put this down so it's clear. See, as I just mentioned, cartilages and ligaments binds the joints and cartilages in between. And this same ligament, you can see the white Here it has been half removed, so you can see what is inside the ligaments. Here you can see the ligament. So the white is a one big mass to keep this all vertebra tied together. Here this vertebra has been tied by wires. So here is the same thing, tying up. Somebody please come up also. Now you stand there and you watch on the thing. Somebody please come up. Get up, say. Bring this one, the one start to the back. No, don't throw it away. Just take this off and then bring the other one. And it's also immediately. Bring that one. Yeah, take that. Put on the front. Put this at the back. Just like the back, you also have the muscles and ligaments in the front also, abdominal region. You can see the partial ribs and muscles, and it's connected all the way. Now the problem is your muscles which holds this body straight. You can divide into anterior muscles and posterior muscles. These are the anterior, and this side is the posterior. You see the side here, the back. Now, the back problem starts with the muscles which keeps this bony structure in one piece against the gravity. Suppose I have to sit in this position. My balance is maintained by certain muscles to oppose from the gravity. So they are taking strain. If I keep on holding, how long I can hold? Maybe 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and later on I need something to support. Oh, thank you. Muscle says, thank you, master. I can rest. Now, the opposite side. So the muscles are constantly engaged to keep you in balanced state. Then you get into adaptive weakness of the muscles. It's very important, this word. Adaptive weakness. We'll find out what that means. Before you understand that adaptive weakness, now we take the muscles which keeps this bony structure straight or bent, sway, move, walk, jump. Whatever the function a muscle does, its function is to pull, not to push. For example, now the calf muscles is pulling up. Now this bony portion is pulled by my muscles in my hand. The same thing is done by your calf muscles. This is called flexion. And now to straighten this and bring back the vertical position again, that particular motion is called extension. So the two motions are there. One is flexion, another is extension. Now whether it is flexion or extension, the muscles are doing only one thing. They are called pulling. They cannot push. So when that muscle is contracted, it is pulling this joint, this particular bone to the upper, and to extend, another set of muscle is also pulling. So when it's called flexion or extension, muscles function is only to pull. So muscles are arranged in opposite pairs. That's very important to remember. Muscles are arranged, everyone repeat that. Opposite pairs. And muscles can only pull, not push. But let us assume I am going to push. Okay, this is very strong. I want to push it away from me. Now it is here. I am going to push it away. So my muscles are doing pulling or pushing? I am pushing it. I am pushing it. So is pulling or pushing? Pushing, is it not? Muscles can only do one thing. It is called, it can only pull. So why then I call it push? But muscles, what muscle is trying to pull? The triceps. The muscles are arranged in opposite pairs. So there is biceps, then there is triceps. And my biceps pulls, it brings the lower arm towards the upper arm. Now if I want to extend my lower arm, then the triceps pulls the forearm. Pulling. So when I am pushing this, what is actually happening is my tricep is contracting, pulling. See? So it appears to be pushing, but actually still it is pulling. So two things you must understand: the muscles. Muscles can only pull, and most of the muscles are arranged in opposite pairs. You are a teacher training yourself? Huh? No? Okay. So muscles are then get into adaptive weakness. Again, repeat that word. That means one set of muscle can be weaker and the opposing muscle can be stronger, or vice versa. The opposing muscle will be weaker, or the other muscle, the counteract, can be stronger, or both muscles will be equal. If they are equal in strength, then you do not have any bodily postural problem. Now, a president of a big bank or a big business, he came to his big office, or President Reagan came to Oval Office, and he sits in his chair. Now, what is the position of the muscles. There are anterior muscles and posterior muscles. Now, most of our work, or the example, the officer or president, he has to work in the working condition. Which direction? Pala, keep your eyes open. Eyes closing. What is the position of his vertebral column from bottom to the top? He has to flex the trunk, anterior muscles, and contracting the posterior muscles. He is signing document, paper, looking, reading. So one set of muscle is trying to keep the body completely falling into the desk. Sometimes they do while standing. That means the muscles are relaxing, they are not controlled by the central nervous system, falls. So as long as the muscles are in control, which muscle is to keep the body from falling down? The posterior muscle. And as long as he can work, but that sitting an hour or two or whatever the time, putting in this position, one set of muscle is constantly overworking to keep the body against the gravity. And that set of muscle, you can call it the, which one? The posterior muscle. And anterior muscle has got very little work. It's contracted, and that is been stretched now and keeping against the gravity. So after 2-3 hours, you get up. What happens? There is stiffness, means that's called adaptive weakness. The muscles of one side is been weakened and opposite muscles are continuously overworked, and there comes postural fault. Postural fault, or a faulty body alignment. That's the purpose of that string, and we'll find out that what type of muscular and adaptive weakness you got by your various living conditions. As even yesterday, advertisements are going on. 70 to 80 million Americans are suffering from back problem. Cause we'll find out soon. Now in daily life, most of our activities are done in the forward bending position. Cleaning, sweeping, which direction? Cleaning the dishes. So you are cleaning the windows, forward. Always, most of the motion is forward, and the body is struggling to keep against the gravity too. So some of the professional people, like dentist, he is now what he's doing from 8 hours? He's drilling the wide open, and then wide open. So what the position? That's called adaptive. And he may be a dentist, but for the body, he is just like any other human beings. Muscle doesn't treat him a doctor different from a patient. It's all the same. So he worked on the teeth, but he forgot to work on his back, on his muscle. So he came up after several hours of adaptive weakness. He came back home. Now what he does at home? He just came, his comfortable sofa. He lie down on the comfortable sofa, have his cigar and open the television Now, what the position of his body? Again, though he may be resting, but that resting is not for the muscles. The muscles are in the same old condition as he was doing the same. Then he goes to bed. What is the condition of the bed? Soft. And all the vertebra, all these back muscles and so forth, in a contracted condition, that muscle while sleeping now must keep this vertebral column in the same position. What is the position? S shape. If it has to keep 8 hours in that S shape, the muscles, the central nervous system is continuously shifting to send muscle. Okay, muscle contract. So there is no way he can get a real rest. Though he is thinking he is sleeping, the muscles are not resting because it is not a hard bed will give much better relaxation to that muscles because it has been now used by the gravity is opposed by the hard bed, but a soft bed really affects worse. And so this way, day and night, his body gets into adaptive state of weakness. So also the golfers, what type of muscle he will use? Only? So that's all, maximum. So the tennis players. So there is very little action comes to many of the opposing muscles, as most of the games like golf, etc., are only for one set of muscle. As you remember, muscles are arranged in opposite pairs and muscles can only pull. So a tennis player is hitting the ball this way and that way. It's good. His flexion of the upper arm, when he hits this way, it's fine. But his elbow should be always in extended state all the time. That's why tennis player, then only he can be a good player. So even if he's doing the backstroke, his elbows are kept in the same stiff position. So he is having the abduction. That is adduction or abduction. This is adduction. So his abductor muscles and adductor muscles moving, but very little he gets on the action on the opposing muscles, and then especially elbow joints are stiff all the time. So he gets tennis elbow. So also great prize fighters like Muhammad Ali, they got back problem. Muhammad Ali has got back problem. Though he developed the muscles, but very little action he gives on the lumbar region. So from the golfers to our daily activities, we are constantly engaged only certain muscles, neglecting the opposite muscles. So that's why how we got into bodily faulty alignment or faulty posture. Up to this time, you got a description of the general introduction about the back problems and how to correct it. We'll come to that soon. In this introductory talk, that is sufficient for you. If you can keep this in mind, we'll discuss step by step now, all this in very detailed way. Not only you can help yourself, as you are all going to be yoga teachers, it will be a great blessing for the humanity if you can teach them how to take care of their back, their spinal column. Apart from all the problems related to the bad postures, it is not only merely a kind of postural problem, but from this spine emanates nerves throughout the body, motor and sensory nerves, impulse coming from the brain and spreading. Somebody please come up, please. And where is the other sister? Can't see. nervous system. Time will affect your nervous system and the pranic motion, which you already know about what is prana. That is why yogis are so much interested in the vertebral column. It's not for merely back problem or bad postures to correct. For them, this backbone carries the spinal cord, which is the projection of your brain, the tail which goes through this, and this protects your spinal cord. Though you are able to move, do all actions, so it is keeping the body not only in the right posture. That spinal cord is most important projection of your brain. In fact, it does many actions before the brain can interfere, like reflex actions. You touch a hot stove, you pull your hands immediately without thinking. If you have to send a message after touching the hot stove, sensory impulse going, reaching, and slowly it moved through the nerve from here and then connected to the spinal cord and reached the brain, and then brain, oh my, something is painful, what it is? Then it looks, oh yes, it is hot stove. Oh, come on, hand, don't stay there, please move it. If he has to do this, there will be no more finger. So what the spinal cord does, impulse coming from that finger, the tip, reach it here and shunt it back. Before it even reach there, it can send an immediate response back to the motor nerve. Come on, pull it up. So the brain can be free from this type of emergency jobs. This is called reflex mechanism. So that spinal cord, any injury or reflexes in a very wrong state, your life will be in a very difficult position. Over and above, the disc which you can see clearly, this disc which separates each vertebra, they can be injured or move away from its position, creating bad bodily alignment. You call it slipped disc. We'll discuss this more later on in the subsequent lessons. A slipped disc, but the disc itself is not slipped away from, but it can, that small change of the position, the purpose of the disc is to separate the two vertebrae and also allow the motion, free movement. When that is alignment or improperly positioned, it puts the pressure on the nerves. Just think about these wires are like nerves, let us assume. See, the wires coming from these is like a nerve. And when there is a faulty alignment or the vertebra, the disc has been prolapsed or out of shape or slipped, what you call it, general term, the nerve is pinched. Even a small effect, pressure on any nerves is a killing thing. You will be living in a very painful condition in your life. And psychologically, any nerve irritation will create tremendous psychological problems. You can have billions and billions of dollars and all the things you want, but the continuous irritation on your nervous system will keep the muscles always contracted, certain muscles, to avoid the pressure. And this will be all getting tomorrow in subsequent lessons. But You must understand, so the back problem is not only related to the muscles alone, but to the nervous system also, and that relation to the mental condition. Then advanced students, spiritual students, the prana, the psychic and the shakti moves from here to the brain. Generally, the shakti energy moves from the up downward through a sexual and sensual organs. All the chakras are inside this spinal cord. It's a nerve centers where, like a batteries, the nerve energy is being stored. And like acupuncture doctors put needles and pins to shut off the prana or the sensory impulse to reach the brain. Even some of the major surgery they perform, not with any anesthesia, by just using needles, but to shut off the nerve impulse reaching. The same thing happens also. When you are due to improper posture, the energy will not easily go up. So your meditation, you may try with a back problem, with that energy shut off. It's very difficult to get the mind in a very meditative state. So these are some of the introductory things you must understand. From now onwards, we can go in maybe in a day, 1 or 2 lessons. I'll just give you the techniques and the other things related to the problems. Again, we are going to discuss only all the things what we said now in detailed and scientific way to understand the problems of the back and other related subjects. So you must be learning little bit about joints. When you say joint means there must be ligaments to connect. Then you must learn little bit about cartilages, and then you will be able to learn little bit about muscles. When you come to muscles, you'll be learning flexors, extensors, abductors, adductors, pronators, supinators, elevators, depressors, protractors. Makes no difference. Muscles can only do one thing, pull. And muscles are arranged in opposite pairs. So when you come to the study of muscles, 2 sections you will be coming. One section, muscle length and muscle strength. 2 things are there. Muscle length and muscle strength. And then muscle metabolism. So the 2 sides. How the muscle been powered and what happens during muscular activity, chemical reactions. This is muscle metabolism you will be learning. And then to correct the postural faults, you learn muscle length and muscle strength. Some people have muscle length, they can stretch, but their muscle strength is very weak. Others have strong muscles, but they cannot stretch muscle length. Like an elastic band, rubber elastic band. You can pull the elastic band A strong elastic band, you can very difficult to pull to maximum. A very weak one, you can pull it, and then it snaps when you go beyond. So, length of that stretching of that elastic band, and then a more it stretch, its ability to contract also increases. If you want to, the example is the slingshot. You pull that sling, the more you can pull, faster it goes, and contraction is faster. So a less contracted muscle only give less strength. So muscle length is important. Then sometimes muscle length is too weak and there is no strength. We'll find out that how to distinguish between these two problems, and that's the way you are going to learn to correct the bodily posture and bodily problems. With that, I'll conclude our introduction. Now, any questions on this, so that tomorrow it will be very easy for you to understand the rest of the thing. This basic foundation is essential to understand. Now, any questions? Yes.
Is it possible to have both weak length and strength?
Oh yes, you can have both weak and weak. That's both. And some muscles, that's what the postural fall comes. The weak muscles are, suppose my biceps is very weak and triceps is strong. So what happens? It's very difficult to pull because tricep doesn't want to give way. So I got only 50% mobility. This you'll be learning now. So you don't have full mobility, you see? Half mobility only. And suppose the tricep is very weak and the bicep is strong, then it won't go opposite direction. You see? So that's called weakness. Yes. Set place. Is it possible? Yeah, we'll be explaining that tomorrow. So, okay, you can leave all these charts exactly here, and I will continue that. Okay, just leave it there, everything as it is, except the cameras. Okay, I think we got some lights. Just focus again. I want to see how it looks like there for tomorrow. Focus the okay. This is the second lesson we are having on postural faults and correct postures. Last time we discussed about the various problems related to the back. We'll elaborate that today with many examples, with illustrations. When we talk about posture, we generally know only about standing posture or sitting posture. But the body can move and create thousands and thousands of postures, and these postures are called asanas in Sanskrit. And most of these postures named after various animals, birds, even sometimes trees. According to the yogic system, there are 840,000 postures. Each one of the postures represents one particular species, according to, again, the yogic system. There are 840,000 species in this universe, and we evolved and moved on from various stages and reached the human level. Before we reached the human level, our postures were mostly on four, not vertical, it is horizontal. Since man adapted the standing posture, many complications also came with that due to improper living and improper condition. So this human body we are now using is a very complicated and intricate mechanism. If you look at the skeleton, you will see it's made up of so many pieces of bones, and these bones are tied together by ligaments at the joints and then powered by muscles. If you look at a ballet dancer, here is the picture. A ballet dancer and basketball players. You can see the skeletal system as well as the muscular system in operation. Just have a peek. What happened? The same skeleton is doing intricate and complicated movement. It's been controlled by the central nervous system. The ballet dancer turns slowly and gracefully on her toes. The basketball player leaps from the ground, skillfully maneuvering the ball while he dodges his opponent and throws the ball into the basket. At the end, the spellbound audience, amazed by the integrated movement, applauds and walks out of the theater, not realizing that their own movements are as intricate as the dancers or the athletes. In our everyday life, the most amazing feat of balance we all perform is standing erect. Although it looks simple, the accomplishment is as intricate as a juggler stunts on the stage. First, there is the foot. Just take to the skeleton, please. Just follow me, and otherwise you won't be able to get anything properly if you are going to do it like this. Although it looks like simple, the accomplishment is as intricate as a juggler's stunt on the stage. First, there is the foot with the domed arch. The foot with the domed arch, and on it is balanced a shin bone. Above it is another heavier bone, the thigh, with a knob like, and that balances still heavier bone, the pelvis. Above the pelvis, 24 vertebrae are piled, in turn balancing weighty structure, the skull. This entire structure not only stands, but bends, sways, walks and runs. Standing erect, the primary phase of posture is the balancing of the above mentioned parts. Man's various parts are tied together by ligaments to hold balance. If posture and balance are good, the ligaments have a long and elastic life. One of the primary purposes of asanas or yogic exercises or postures is to give the body the maximum amount of flexibility. Incorrect posture and balance without proper exercise bring shortening of the ligaments, which in turn render the body immobile. it assumed that the role of the fascia ligaments in relation to the muscle is very important. The related functions of the muscles and ligaments is also of central importance in the prevention of faulty body mechanics through yoga exercises. In order to understand how immobility occurs, we should examine the nature of the function of the ligaments and the prominent role they play. That's the introduction to start with. Now we actually go to various motions your muscles can do. Okay, I need a gentleman, please come up here. Any gentleman? Okay, it shuts off. Can stand up. Stand up. Last time we mentioned the important factor about the muscles. The first, muscle can only pull, it cannot push. Second, muscles are in opposite pairs. That means one portion of the muscle contracts, the opposite muscle extends or stretches. So here it is, my biceps and the triceps, opposite pairs. Biceps is contracted and triceps stretches. And triceps contracts, the biceps stretches. Most of the problems occurs, one set of muscle creates more pull than the opposing muscle can control. If the pull is very strong by the biceps and the tricep is very weak, the joint is thrown very easily, and the opposite thing here takes place. The triceps is now very weak and the biceps is strong, then the pull will not be very strong. To counteract the contraction of the biceps, the triceps don't have the power. So partial immobility sets in. And also the same thing happens with your anterior muscles and the posterior muscles. If the anterior muscles are very weak and the posterior muscles are very strong, then your body is thrown backward and you get a bodily posture, a faulty posture. The opposite takes place if your anterior muscles are very strong and the posterior muscles are weak, then your body is thrown forward. Now, before we just go, these are the basic condition of your spine. Whenever this is not there, you can shut it off, that camera. You don't have to run it. It's all the time, 24 hours. So, the basic motion of your muscles. Again, remember, muscles are arranged in opposite pairs. First, remember that. Repeat, everybody, please. Second, muscles can only pull. Doesn't matter what action they perform. If one set of muscle is very strong and the opposite muscles are weak, then body gets into faulty posture. So before that, let us analyze now what are the basic motion of your muscles. First, you can open also your manual. There is pictures. Please get that. Which page it is that? 176. The first motion, these are the words we use now in muscular contraction. Flexion, repeat the word. Flexion. Opposite to flexion is called extension. So you got two words, flexion and, okay. Now we are going to show how the flexion is done. Shasha, get up to that. Okay. Raise your upper arm straight. No, not like that. Straight up. That's a different way. And bring it down. Okay, I will tell you when to do it. Okay. Okay. You take the hand also as she does that. You lift it up. This is a flexion of the upper arm. Okay. Lift up. And look at also that place also. Just take that also. Yes. Don't worry about me now. Okay. Just look there and then just get into that. Huh? Okay, push the skeleton more. Okay, keep very close to him then. Okay. Okay, put together that. Okay. For more come to the right. Okay, put together. Okay. Once more, let us start. Two words we are learning now: flexion and the extension. How it is done in the upper arm. Okay, flexion. Extension. Now, to head the flexion, a set of muscles are used or pulling. In extension, a set of muscles are pulling, and other muscle, opposing muscle, is also not only stretching, it also protects the hand from the gravity. Otherwise, my hand will fall. So, the opposing muscle also helping in a way like a spring, so we can control the extension against the gravity. So, the body has to, muscles are there so that you can stand against gravity and move your body without being thrown into the ground completely. So here it is again, flexion, raise up, extension. Next is abduction and adduction. So with the word and adduction. These are the exercise we do. Abduction, sideways. Away from your body, always called abduction, and towards the body is called adduction. It's not the same muscle you are using for upper flexion and extension. It's an entirely different set of muscle. Don't worry about, but just learn these basic lessons, sufficient for you. So abduction and adduction. Adduction is towards the body, abduction is away from the body, if you can remember that. So once more, repeat the word abduction and adduction. What is the next thing in your manuals? What is the thing written? Elevation and depression, is it not? What is there? Give me a manual, please, with me, so I follow your manual. Where are you looking in this book?
176.
What's the page? 180?
188.
Where are you looking? Huh? I know, but why were you not? You are not looking in the right place. You should have. They told that. Okay. Shoulder movement. So you see in the page 1, 2, just take the number 1. There you see flexion and extension and abduction and adduction. Did you see that page? There's the picture there. The next is still in that medial rotation and lateral rotation. Here again, the shoulder, that is, no, wait. The motion is now rotation of the arm. Rotation takes place here, not here, elbow joint. It's stable, it's called rotation. Medial and lateral, out. Come on, everyone try to rotate, you can see what it is. Inward and outward. Next is elevation and depression. That's called elevation and depression. Elevation, depression. So everything is opposite. When you do elevate, then also you learn the depression. Then next is protrusion and retraction. See, you pull forward your shoulder right and retract. Forward, retract. Protrusion and retraction. You got it? Just repeat it. Or put the hand sideways. The hand side as a retraction. So the basic motion of your shoulder joint. You got it once more? Let us see that. Repeat it. Flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, and then medial rotation inward, lateral rotation outward. Now, elevation and depression. Elevation and depression. Then protrusion and retraction. So again remember, muscles are arranged in opposite pairs. So flexion, extension, abduction and adduction, and elevation, depression, protrusion, retraction. You got that clearly. Medial rotation and lateral rotation. Now about the lower arm. You finish here. Now we are coming to this joint. Now, first is again what we had learned. But the first, what you did here, what was the name you gave? Flexion. So here is the first thing is flexion. Okay. Flexion, extension. Now here flexion is done by the contraction of the biceps, and extension is by the contraction of the. That's why muscle can only pull, not push. So your bicep is pulling the upper arm. Look at that. Pull up all the way up. All the way up.
It's all good.
Okay. It's got immobility there. Arthritis. And extension. The next is, what is that? What did you learn before? Abduction and adduction. Now, come on, try to do abduction and adduction. Is it possible? No. Because it's a hinge joint. You see that joint. Bring the skeleton here closer. See, though there are two bones there, only one bone is attached to the upper arm. Did you see that? And so it is a hinge like a door. It can only move flexion and there is no abduction or adduction in this. Remember that point very well. But there is something more there. You can pronation. Say the word pronation and supination. What happens is this bone rotates over the big one. You see that? That's called pronation and supination. See that? So a set of muscle is pulling towards down, just like when you are going to fall down, your hand is always, suppose you are falling forward, what is the position of your hand? That's called pronation. And so when you do certain exercise, your hand will be in pronation and certain time it is in supination. So that is the motion of the. So there is no abduction or adduction, no rotation, no medial rotation or anything. Just flexion and extension and the pronation, supination. The next is further down. What's the next joint? Wrist. Okay, first, what is the first thing to do? Flexion, try. Flexion, extension. You can have half extension or the full extension. So that's neutral state. You can also extension. You can also flexion, extension, hyperextension also. Sometimes you can give the word more beyond the extension. We go called hyperextension. But generally, at present, we can say flexion and extension. Now, abduction and adduction possible? Yes. Abduction and adduction. See that wrist, that motion, abduction and adduction there. So you learned the basic motion of the upper arms, shoulder, elbow and the wrist. Now is the neck. This is called flexion, extension. Come on, flexion, extension. Then abduction. How? That way, which way? So if you are going to go rightward, then you are pulling the thing towards the body. So it will be abduction towards the right shoulder and adduction toward the left shoulder. So then rotation also. You can rotate and side motion. The same thing with the trunk flexion now. This is more difficult for you to understand. Watch here. In the trunk flexion, hip is not involved. Remember, there are joint here, this hip. This motion is not on the trunk. You understand that? Where is it happening? It is hip. So there's a hip flexion and trunk flexion is quite different. You can easily confuse. So the motion what is taking place in the ball and socket joint at the hip is different from the trunk. Here, suppose this bone is fixed. This is, let us say, we fix this completely. It's not it's immobile. Then what is bending is your trunk. That lumbar, thoracic and cervical region. So the trunk, the flexion of the trunk and extension of the trunk and hyperextension of the trunk. So flexion of the trunk, this will give more during the muscle strength. I'll explain more clearly. So you understand flexion of the, and also there is rotation, lateral motion, rotation of the trunk. It's like the spinal twist you'll be learning, rotation. So these are the basic motion of the trunk. Now comes the joint here. What do you call this? Hip. Now first hip flexion. Lift your right leg out. See? Where is the flexion? You can see that, is it not? It's not trunk, it is just at the ball and socket joint. See, that is just moving. Flexion, extension down. Flexion, extension. Now, what is the next word? Abduction. Abduction is, it's not as much as you can do with your leg, hands, but there is abduction. Out, come on, pull it out. That's abduction and adduction. Okay, repeat. Okay, show that. Let's take the leg out. You do. Abduction and adduction. The next portion is rotation. So rotate. Not there. We are not touching. This is a different joint. We are only interested in the joint there. So that rotation here. Very little rotation, you get it. Of course, it is more stiff because of the. If you rotate, you see. Rotation, medial and lateral. So next is motion of the knee joint. Okay. Flexion of the knee joint, how it is done. That's the flexion. In this position, you do that leg. The hip is in flexion, but knee joint is in extension. You see, this is an extension. Now, if you want a flexion of the knee in this position, that's called flexion, both the knee joint, you see. It's not this. So, here both the joints are in flexion. Hip is in flexion, knee is in flexion. Now, if you want to extend the knee, so here, the knees are extended. But what about the hip? Hip is in flexion, but knee is extension. Same thing with the, no much motion on the abduction and adduction. So the next motion is then coming to the okay. This
flexion is called dorsiflexion, and this flexion is called plantar flexion. So here both are called flexion. Dorsiflexion towards and plantar flexion away. And there is also very little motion, but don't worry about rest of the thing. Only we have to know plantar flexion and the dorsiflexion. So let us go once more, all the basic motions. Upper arm, repeat the word, flexion of the upper arm. Next is abduction and adduction, and then rotation medial, lateral. Then what? Elevation and depression. Elevation, depression. Next is protrusion and retraction. Protrusion and retraction. That's upper arm. Now neck flexion, extension. Just basic one. So trunk, flexion, extension and hyperextension. Now hip, flexion of the hip, where? Remember, it is not on the leg, knee, it is just at the flexion of the legs. Okay. And extension, downward. Then abduction and adduction. And rotation medial and lateral. Then flexion of the knee. Flexion of the knee. Okay, lift it up and then get to flexion of the knee, extension of the knee. The same position. Down. Now flexion of the foot. What is the first flexion? This way. Dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. So you've got various simple movements. These are the basic motion your joints can do. Now what is the posture is a combination of these postures. Make a posture. Okay, now Shasha, lie down. Just see what happens in posture. You are going to do shoulder stand. Tell me what are the postures in shoulder stand? Shoulder stand. Up. First come down. First come down. Not all the way. Just step by step. And this is called, you have to give me different situation of the muscles and the joints. No. Come down first. Okay. Now, first she's attempting to lift the which flexion? Hip flexion. And in order to lift, she can lift two ways. She can flex the knees. Okay, flex your knees. See? She lifted. So there are two flexions are there. What are the two flexions? Okay, straighten your things. No, straight. Okay, now straight. So there is knee extension. So in the correct posture, when she goes up, come down. If she has got no back problem, she's a normal person, then she is going to lift into the shoulder stand by first starting with the hip flexion and knee extension. Okay, come on first. So hip flexion and knee extension. Hold it there. Don't go up. Just wait. Now, from there, trunk is in which state now? The trunk. It is in extension. There is no bending. Trunk is in extension. Hip is in flexion. Knees are in extension. Okay. Now, go a little bit more up. Hold it there. Now what the situation? Trunk is in flexion. Hip is in flexion. Knees are still in extension. Okay, go further up a little bit more. Still give me the muscle analysis. The trunk is in flexion. Hip is in and knees extension. And feet It is a plantar flexion mostly. It's dorsiflexion, pull your leg close, see that's a dorsiflexion. So it's mostly plantar flexion in that state, unless you push really hard, still it is plantar flexion. Now go further up, go up, okay, straighten up. Now tell me what is the situation. Neck is in flexion, trunk, extension. Trunk is in extension. Hip is in extension. There is no more bending at the hip. See where the hip is? Extension. Knees are in extension. Feet, plantar flexion. Put the plantar, straighten up. Plantar flexion. So here, except one portion of the body, everything is in extension. Which is flexion? Neck is in only flexion. Trunk, hip, knee, and the feet are all in extension. You got that? Now, bring both the legs over the head to the plow position. Leave the hands down on the ground. Now tell me what is happening. Knee, start always from the neck. Neck, knee. Knee is in. Start the neck. Neck is in flexion. Trunk, flexion. No, it's not. More flexion is actually. It's a flexion there. Then you may not, because the trunk flexion is so limited, little bit, but still there is a flexion in that to get that full plow. Otherwise, you will not be able to come down forward. You see, and so trunk is in flexion. Hip, flexion. Knees, extension. Feet in plantar flexion. Plantar flexion. Now bend the knees. Bring the hands over the knees and under the head. Now start again. Neck is in trunk, flexion, hip, knees, feet, flexion. That means entire body is in flexion. It appears to be both exercises are very similar, but not. You see, certain place it appears to be very similar, but not. Here it is everything different. Now come up. Now come to the bridge position. You can sit down. Thank you. I'll call it. Okay. Now start from the neck. Neck is in trunk, hyperextension, and hip, hyperextension, and knees. It should be extension. That's I see you can find out the mistake. In that position, knee should be completely extension. Come on, straighten your knees a little bit more. Come on, a little more, Sasha. Little more, Sasha. Ah, there it is. Extension. Now feet in plantar flexion. So you see, once more go up to the plow position. Watch the. Now come back to the lying position. Slowly. Watch now. The trunk is from the flexion state, it is coming into extension. First the trunk is extended, and then second is hip. Hip is slowly extending, and then next is the feet. The hip still flexion. Knees are always in extended state. Come down and lying position. So remember, muscles are arranged in opposite pairs. So most of the flexion you got where? On the neck. So neck must have the opposite exercise. So what do you do? Fish position. Hands straight under the thighs. See a simple extension of the neck. The counter position. You got that simple? Is it not? So once more go to the flexion of the shoulder joint, shoulder stand, and plow position. Come down. Go to the shoulder stand. See that. Now come down. Now opposite. That called Matsyasana or the fish posture. So every posture has got a counter posture. So that opposite muscles also will get proper. Because muscles can only pull, not push. Okay, that's all. The back extension, neck muscles are pulled now. Also trunk is also pulled. Now the same thing in advanced stage, half lotus position. Half lotus down on both the leg feet on the ground. Both the feet on the ground. On the ground, cross it. On the ground, on the floor. Cross leg. Simple cross leg. Now grab it. Catch your toes. Not like that. You know the fish position. You've forgotten the fish position? That's why you do the fish position?
I never do it that way.
Then which way you do?
I just do it straightly.
And you don't know, teach this. Grab this. Grab the toe. Outside. Outside the air. Pull it. Now lie down. Lift up.
Okay.
I know about pain, but you must do that opposition. So here is. Now just give me the muscles. What kind of? Now first of all, start from the neck. Neck is in hyperextension. Trunk is in hyperextension. Hip is in hyperextension. Knees are the leg here. The hip joint is in. Hip joint here is in abduction. Is abduction, you see? Is abduction. And knees are in flexion, and the feet, of course, is pulled. So it is a plantar flexion. And the elbows are in flexion. Elbows are in flexion. And what about the shoulder? You remember elevation and depression. So what is happening now? It is pulled. So there's depression. And not only depression, there is also protrusion and retraction. So it has been retracted too. You see? So many things now in one exercise. Okay, down. Now comes the full lotus. Can you do full lotus?
Sometimes.
Okay, sometimes. Today you do it. Today is the best time to do. Okay. Now go back. Now do the same thing, fish position. Grab your toes. Okay. All other things are the same. Abduction is more pronounced in this, but there is also a pull towards elbows, and the retraction are all prominent and more pronounced in this position. Retraction and depression all complete. So you see, one posture is nothing but a combination of various flexion, extension, abduction, and so forth. It's just like if you want to write a word, we have to learn first of all. Come down. You have to learn. If you want to write a word, what you have to do? If you want to write a word, you have to learn first what? Letters. A, B, C, D. And a word is nothing but a combination of various letters. And then if you want to write a sentence, you have to put several words together with the grammar. Now we are going to do a sentence in yoga. Okay, any advanced students here? Okay, come here, Harry. Okay, you can, Shasa can little rest now. Now you see we are writing a big sentence. Those are words. Words, yes, right. Okay, sentence. Okay, take your shirts off. Okay. First of all, we'll start with the headstand. See how sentences coming up. Okay. First position. Headstand starting position. Okay, now what? Now position of your upper arm is elbows are flexion, and the wrist is in extension, and the fingers also in flexion. And now put the head down. Now give me the muscle. Where the neck is in slightly bent position, trunk is in extended state, hip is in flexion, knees are in flexion, feet are in flexion. Now come the first number one position. Now feet are dorsiflexion or plantar flexion. It is mostly plantar still, yeah. And now the hip is in flexion, trunk is in flexion also, it's in flexion. And the neck is in extension. No, it's not completely bent. It's a neutral, so it's flexion or extension both. And now come close, bring the knees close to the chest. Now the knees are in flexion. The hip is in, trunk is in Flexion. Now, when you want to go now to the shoulder, to the headstand, first thing you do what? You have to bend your flex, not the trunk. There's nothing to do with the trunk. That is fixed. The head and the. So this is what happening now. See what he's doing is flexing the. So the balance is. Oh my God! Solve came out. You need a surgery. Any surgeon here? Okay, you need a surgeon. Okay, I will be the temporary surgeon. Okay. So flexion now. So the balance started when? It is not when you are up. The balance already down, because the balance is done on the elbow, the tripod. So the tripod is strong and the back muscles and the hip muscles are all in a good condition. His body is able to stand against the gravity. That's all the muscle is doing. So now knees are in flexion, hip is in flexion. Okay. Now in the headstand, what you do? Not the legs. There's nothing to do with the legs. You are extending the trunk, not the hip. Trunk. What's the trunk? See that? As you extend the trunk, the hip automatically come into this stage. He's not functioning at the, again come down to the trunk flexion. See that? It appears to be you are moving the hip, but it is not moving. It is the motion is on the trunk extension. Okay, extension of the trunk. Okay, now next step is what? Extend. That's a hip extension. See, it's not the knee. Knee is still in the position. Hip extension. Now next step is knee extension. See? So coming down also the same way. First flexion of the knees, then flexion of the hip. No, they've gone too far. Yeah, that's the flexion of the hip. Third, flexion of the trunk. And final, bring in the extension of the knee. Now go once more up. Flexion of the knee, extension of the trunk, extension of the hip, and extension of the knee. See, you are slowly putting everything together. No complicated words coming in language now. Okay, come down straight without bending the knee. Here, he is able to stand against the gravity. Lift your feet 3 inches above the ground. Hold it there. What is the cause of it? He is able to stand against the gravity, which is the muscle which is pulling him up. His back extensors and the hip muscles quite strong. He can just hold it there. And lift up, go up. Now which is muscle pulling up? See? The whole area, this back extensor is pulling and go up, go up. So without actually directly involved with step by step, he can go against the gravity. Here muscles are now flexion and extension of the hip and the trunk are flexion, extension of the hip and the flexion of the both. So okay, come back again, both the legs down. Okay, now you see, to get the legs straight with, he is not doing anything with this. First, you have to bend your knee in the first step, is it not? Now what are you doing? The both extension of the trunk and the hip simultaneously taking place. Okay, lift up now. See, both hip extension and trunk extension simultaneously. In the before first step, go the first again, go back. The first bend your, come down. No, go down, all the way down. Yeah, bend your knee. First start from the ground. Yeah, first bend the flexion of the knee, then extension of the trunk, then extension of the hip, and extension of the knee. But now, from the very beginning, he is starting, go down. Now, straight down. See? Now, he avoided the flexion of the knee, but extension is, already the knees are in extension state, so now he is extending only two things. What are the two? The hip and the trunk, simultaneously, both going, okay, go up. And now, go backward, hyperextension of the trunk. Hyperextension of the trunk, hyperextension of the hip, and the knees are in extended state. Go up again, straight. Now, right leg forward, left leg back. Now, what is happening here? Right leg is in flexion, Left leg is in hyperextension. And change opposite. Change. Change. Steady. Now sideways. No. Both the legs come straight. I didn't say twist. Sideways. I did not say twist. Sideways. Legs. That's right. What do you call that? Abduction. And adduction. Abduction. Adduction. Now, next is rotation. Okay. Here, which is rotating? Trunk. Trunk rotation. Change. So we are slowly writing words. Now come to the lotus position. So now what? Knees are in flexion, feet are in plantar flexion, and also there is one more motion is there, the feet, I forgot. That is a kind of elevation and not. Yeah, inversion and inversion. See, that's inversion and that's opposite. So the feet are in both are in inversion. You see, and now bend your hip, flex your hip. See. So what the muscles are doing now? Different muscles are trying to keep him from falling. That means against the gravity. Okay, up, backward, hyperextension, and steady, straight, twist, twist, steady. Now, scorpion. See, sentence is written now. This is called a sentence. Now tell me, hand is in flexion, like knee, elbows are in flexion. The shoulder is in, it is downward and he is lift against the, so it is retraction. And the neck is in hyperextension, trunk is in hyperextension, hip is in hyperextension, knees are, and the legs are in abduction, and the knees are in flexion and in inversion. Okay, down. Now comes the full scorpion. Bend your head and bring it. See now, a big sentence is written. And I don't want to give too much time in repeating that. Okay, down. Rest, relax. See how asanas are built now? A simple motion of, so asanas are nothing but combination of various things. Okay, now, some more exercise. So you'll see more and more, the motion will be more complicated, that's all. Okay, now sit up. Lie on your back. Lie on your back. Now hands back. Okay, now what is the situation on the back hands now? Yes, in flexion. You've forgotten. See, that's the flexion position. And now, first Paschimottanasana is going to get up. Hold it. Okay, first hand is flexion, neck is in extension, trunk is in extension, hip is in extension, knees are in, feet are in plantar flexion. Okay, now first neck, come on, get up. First hold it there. The neck is in flexion. The next is trunk. Now you understand how the trunk flexion. Okay, get up. That's the trunk flexion. Neck, hold it. Trunk flexion. That's more difficult. That is lots of strength on the muscles which will come later on. Okay, now come up. Now what? Which is the flexion? Hip is in flexion here. But what the trunk? Trunk is in extension, neck is in. See, the position changed. You think it is all forward bend is one thing, but not. The muscles are changed now. The flexion became extension. Go back again, see. the trunk is in flexing. In the hip, extension taking place and the trunk also extending, and flexing, trunk is in, and the neck is in flexion, and the hand is now is in semi, it is not full flexion, it is half flexion, and then go back, now full extension, flexion. Now up again once more, follow the muscular contraction, trunk flexion. Now the trunk is extended, hand is in flexion, and now forward bending, going all the way. Watch now. Where is the thing take place now? Where the bending? Hip. Here is all the things is in this position. Why? Trunk there is flexion there, neck there is flexion, but maximum flexion takes place at the hip joint. So where do you feel pull? On the hamstring and the calf, because the shortening of the ligaments will come, the muscle length and muscle strength. We'll be learning that. Okay, you got that? Now up again, hands back, hands on the ground. Now what? Every muscle, opposite muscle. Now back again, extensor muscles are brought. The hip is in extension, opposite. The trunk is in hyperextension and neck is in hyperextension, just opposite to the forward bending. Now right leg up, the right hip is in flexion, down, left, down. Now right leg up and right hand up. Try. Or left hand. It's not so good anyhow. Done. Rest. Relax. Now, each posture will increase its flexibility or motion of the various joints, either more extension or more flexion, more abduction, more adduction. That's called advanced exercise. Okay, again come back with hands back. Come up in advanced forward bending. Okay, forward, get up. Now don't grab the toes, just bring the elbows to the toes. That's right. Just see? Full flexion, 100% flexion of the hip joint. Bring the head down to the knees. Up. Now, do the same thing, grab your toes. Now, balance with your hip, lift up your same forward hand. Bring your head down to the knees, balance, hold, as right. So with the balancing along with the forward bending, down. Now tortoise position, turtle, the hands. Now give the muscle analysis. Not only forward bending, here sentences are coming up now. Now the neck is in hyperextension, trunk is in flexion, hip is in flexion, legs are in abduction, and knees are in extension, and the hands is retracted. The retraction of the arm and also abduction, retraction and abduction. Up, inhale. Now grab the toes, hands up, grab the toes, stretch your legs out, stretch out. Grab the toes, head forward. Now the legs are in maximum abduction, knees are extension, and the trunk is still in flexion, and the head can be either extension or semi and hyperextension. Up. Now to the right, bring the head to the right. Now what? The flexion of the hip also, there is slightly rotation and abduction of the hip joint, that's the hip. That's the place you are moving. Up, change the opposite direction. Down. Now opposite, now backward, forward and forward bending mostly. Now the opposing muscles, lie down. Mostly we have done the flexor muscles of the hip and so forth. Now extensor muscles. To understand which is the muscle, later on we'll be given it. Put your hands over the neck. Now see the back extensors opposing. Flexors you saw, now extensor. Raise up. More. Okay. More. That's good. Down. That's the muscle. Now you use your hand, the cobra position. Inhale up. He has got good flexibility, stretching. But strength of the muscle still not sufficient in the opposing side. Down.